Is Sukuna going to become more powerful than 20 fingers? Let's talk about it. In chapter 222 of Jujutsu Kaisen, we saw Sukuna make up for his last finger by eating his own body, and he also made note that Gojo is likely in possession of his last finger. Now, what could this mean going forward? Well, Gege would not bring back Sukuna's body to restore his last finger instead of just feeding him his actual finger for no reason. And not only that, this was just brought up as a plot point very recently. And when Kenjaku said he brought back this body as a souvenir, well, that was a fucking lie. This is not a souvenir, this is an amp. It's a human-shaped chicken nugget. And I always kind of expected Sukuna to eat the last finger in front of our protagonist, because there's a certain thematic weight to eating the last nugget, if you will. But where is the finger currently? Well, the safest place for it would be on Gojo. But if he brings this into combat against Sukuna in their final fight, well, he's probably going to get robbed. So while it may be the safest on Gojo, I don't know if it's the smartest idea to bring it into an actual fight with Sukuna at the same time. And if Sukuna eats this finger, well, he's going to be beyond 20 fingers at that point. Or at the very least, beyond what we originally thought 20 fingers Sukuna was going to be. And that's where we're at in Jujutsu Kaisen. We're talking about 21 fingers Sukuna. Well, kind of. And there's a bit of a mystery behind Sukuna's original death to begin with. We know that 1,000 years ago, people tried to rise up and beat his ass, but it didn't work, and at some point he turned himself into a cursed object, and it certainly seems that he put most of it into his fingers on purpose, and then he had a bit residual in his body. I'm guessing the reason for this is that fingers are just the easiest way to eat your cursed object, like eating chicken tendies versus eating a rotisserie chicken. But now Sukuna has eaten the whole rotisserie chicken, and this finger is going to come back into play. Now, a lot of people are saying that Yuji is going to eat this finger, and I understand why, because Yuji has a history of eating these fingers. Though if he does eat this finger, I'm not sure if we'll see it until his final fight with Sukuna, because Sukuna being inside of Yuji was the reason he was unable to gather cursed energy from other cursed objects to begin with. So once Yuji eats this finger, he has removed his ability to gain any more power from cursed objects again. And they're going to have to get rid of this finger eventually, because any Sukuna is too much Sukuna. Even a one-finger Sukuna is enough to kill most sorcerers.
He's too dangerous to be left alive.
We've seen cursed spirits get executed for far less. However, if Gojo kept this finger and they also did not use Angel's Jacob's Ladder to obliterate it, well, it's probably going to come back into the story eventually. Well, this finger is still one part of Sukuna's soul, and soul hacks are coming more and more into play as we go forward. And normally I don't, but today I'm going to go into the most wild theories that have popped into my mind about this finger. In chapter 220, we learn that Yuji is soaked in Sukuna's cursed energy, and he's become like a cursed object himself. So Yuji and Sukuna are still linked on some level. But my question is, if Yuji eats another Sukuna finger, would another Sukuna incarnate inside of Yuji? Or at the very least, attempt to incarnate inside of Yuji and then be trapped in his body? And would this Sukuna even be in league with the other Sukuna? Sukuna is so prideful that would Sukuna 1 want to eat Sukuna 2, but would Sukuna 2 let Sukuna 1 try to eat him? What kind of Sukuna would just let another Sukuna eat them and not have them eat the other Sukuna to become top Sukuna? I just don't see a world where any part of Sukuna is willing to die for another part of Sukuna if it has Sukuna's consciousness in it. I'm not saying this is going to happen, but I'm just asking questions here. Would this result in brutal cannibal combat? But either way, what they have here is they have part of Sukuna's soul in their possession, and they also have a book on the soul from Yuki Tsukumo, and now you have Yuji, who's probably using soul hacks. And on top of this, we see that Sukuna is showing concern for a slice on his finger that is not fully healed in chapter 216. And Sukuna showing any concern is usually a bad sign. And Sukuna is noted to have an incredibly powerful soul and violently defend his soul and be offended when people touch it. And Yuji, and potentially Megumi as well, are the only people who will ever have been inside of Sukuna's soul or his innate domain. And let's go back to the finger cut for a second, because this scene goes so unmentioned. But this should really be the scene that people are bringing up the most, because this is the most direct foreshadowing of what's not only Sukuna's weaknesses, but how they're going to get Megumi free. Because either Sukuna got cut by the Soul Liberation Blade and it permanently damaged him, or something is going wrong with his vessel even after his bath. And it's kind of frustrating to talk about, but in a good way, because we have so many hints as to how they're going to eventually defeat Sukuna, but we're just missing a few key pieces of information. And the biggest one is we have to find out what Yuji's ability is and his backstory, because whatever Kenjaku built this kid to do, it's going to be something wild. Because Kenjaku and Sukuna, they're going to pull something over on each other eventually once their binding vow is done. And Kenjaku is pretty likely to get punked because he's kind of gone uninterrupted this entire story so far. And people think that Kenjaku is going to kill Sukuna, but not only is that kind of lame, it's also the opposite of what he stated. Kenjaku's whole plan is having Yuji and Sukuna be alive at the same time. and I can think of no better way to thwart his plan than foil him with Sukuna 2. Everyone's afraid of Sukuna 1, but nobody expects Sukuna 2. You know what, that's gonna be this whole video now, Sukuna 1 versus Sukuna 2. So Sukuna 1 is obviously frustratingly powerful, 10 shadows is a big deal, and Sukuna 2, maybe only one finger, but he's also inside of Yuji's body, and Yuji has most certainly become stronger, and he is also soaked in Sukuna 1's curse energy, and who knows what they've been feeding this kid. And Sukuna 1 and Sukuna 2, well, as far as battle IQ is concerned, they are completely equal, truly galactic minds. However, Sukuna 2 has the added benefit of knowing Sukuna 1's technique, but Sukuna 1 does not know every single power-up that Yuji has. However, Sukuna 2 would only be aware of what Yuji knows about 10 shadows. But let's say Gojo loses. Well, I would not put it beyond Sukuna 2 to fight against Sukuna 1 purely out of spite. But let's say that Sukuna 2 was a part of the jumping of Sukuna 1. Sukuna 2 would absolutely betray you even if they managed to kill Sukuna 1. And let's not forget the crippling identity crisis that Uruma may be suffering this entire fight. But that's just my opinion, and now I want to hear yours. Let me know in the comments below. Do you prefer Sukuna 1 or do you prefer Sukuna 2? And if you like content like this, subscribe for more. And as always, thanks for watching.